recombinant DNA technology, first of all, it's basically forming recombinants where we extract gene of interest from an organism and then we transfer it to host organism, the interest, organism of our choice. So everything starts with DNA. So I hope you all must be aware about DNA, DNA, which is genetic material, and it's genetic material of life and blueprint for most of the organisms, uh, except few viruses which are RNA based. Their genome is RNA based. Otherwise, we have most of the organisms which have DNA as their genetic material. It carries all the information which is required for expressing all the proteins inside or an organism. So it's a that's why it's called blueprint of life. That's why, because they are the master players and they will be encoding the proteins which are necessary for expression of each and everything, which all the characters which will happen inside our body, which will develop inside our body in developing years. So that's why we use this technology, so that DNA, which is enclosed inside the nucleus of eukaryotic organisms, mostly in prokaryotes, it's not enclosed in nucleus, it's naked. So we can, extract few portions of that gene from that DNA, few genes which are favorable and which are essential for us or may be helpful for human cause. And then see here, you can see this is a human cell, and gene for growth, human growth hormone has been derived from here. This is the source DNA, you can see. And from source DNA we have taken gene of interest, and they are usually transferred with the help of vectors. Vectors can be plasmids, and if the size of the gene insert is small, so then it can be plasmids. Or nowadays we have bacterial growth factors, and then we have human artificial chromosomes. Lot of options are there where we can carry large inserts also. And this is, see, this vector is carrying gene for human growth hormone. So now when vector is also a DNA, so vector DNA plus gene of interest, so it makes a recombinant DNA, a DNA recombination. Now after this we will, with the help of restriction endonucleases, again we are exploiting tools of biotechnology. So restriction endonucleases, they are a group of enzymes which can cleave specific sites. We have a lot of them which we use, like we have EcoR1, and for example it will cleave GATC sequence in the genome. So we cut DNA like this. This is the bacterial DNA. This is the host DNA where we want to implant it, where we want to transfer. So we will cut with the help of restriction enzymes. So here also the restriction enzyme is EcoR1. We have cut this with the help of restriction enzyme, as well as this recombinant, this vector along with gene of interest. This is also cut with the help of same restriction enzyme. And then we will insert it inside the host. So now this host carries gene of interest, which is human growth hormone, and that is how recombinant DNA technology works. So now we have to discuss what are the properties of or what are the applications of biotechnology, and how it is helpful, and how they are helpful in practical use, not in books. So we'll start with monoclonal antibodies. And is my slide fully visible? Yuvini, can you hear me?
Yes, visible, ma'am.
Okay. So first we'll talk about monoclonal antibodies. So I think antibodies, you must be knowing that, they are usually the antibodies which are produced inside our body, because these antibodies, they are weapons. They are weapons which are produced inside our body against pathogen. Pathogen is a disease causing organism, or against any antigen, or they can be malignant cells, cells which are normal cells, which have been transformed into malignant cells because of maybe any mutation or exposure to some radiations. So all of these are considered as antigen for us. Antigen means, anti means against, and gen means self. So anything which is non-self will be considered as antigen. And human, like not human at all the bodies, like all living organisms, they have immune system inside their body developed, which is non-self will be considered as antigen. And human, like not human at all the bodies, like all living organisms, they have immune system inside their body developed of CRISPR, and we can use it for gene editing. How do we do it? Because this Cas9, it acts as a nuclease. I hope you all know what is nuclease. Nucleases, they are the enzymes which can cut the nucleic acid segments. So we use Cas9 nucleases, and along with that, we use guide mRNA. So both of them, we insert it inside, and we can cut that specific portion. We can cut it, we can edit it, or we can insert gene of our interest. We can replace it. So gene editing inserts, deletes, or replaces DNA in part of a genome. So it can treat many fatal and previously incurable genetic diseases, and it can modify immune cells to target cancer cells. So it's also a biochemical tool at the forefront of gene editing revolution. In fact, we have seen CRISPR technology has been a boon for agricultural development also, where we can edit a gene, plant genome. We can add maybe drought resistant genes, or insect resistant genes, weedicide resistant, and a lot more. So CRISPR is actually very helpful in that way, and it can also be used for modifying a lot of organisms as well along with that. Next comes COVID-19 vaccines. So especially after this pandemic, we have seen a lot more usage of biotechnology, how researchers, they have used it for developing diagnostic tests, RT-PCR and all, and for developing the vaccines. Especially traditionally, what vaccines do, vaccines basically will, vaccines carry a fragment of the virus, which is non-virulent. Non-virulent means it is enough to evoke immune response in your body, but it will not cause disease. So that's why it's called non-virulent, non-pathogenic. So a fragment of virus, of either virus or bacteria, whatever that vaccine is for. So in our case, it's a vaccine against COVID-19 virus. So traditional vaccines, they used to carry a version or a short fragment of the virus, and that is attenuated. That means it is not live, non-live, and it is deactivated fragment. But it carries all the genetic instructions which are present inside the component of the virus. So when they are injected inside our body, they are capable enough to evoke the immune response. So that means we already have circulating antibodies present in our immune system, which are enough to fight or to combat against this disease, even if after getting vaccinated, when this virus tries to infect us. So we have already preformed antibodies in our system. So this is how traditional vaccines used to work. But now we have genetic vaccines. So these gene vaccines, they can be DNA vaccines or RNA vaccines. So they are much safer because, what do they have? They carry that, they carry gene, which will encode for the fragment of the antigen. So we just deliver the gene, which is going to code for that antigen inside the host body. So genetic vaccines, they're genetically re-engineered, safe options than traditional vaccines. They can be for viruses, human or animal, adenovirus. So DNA vaccines, they transfect a specific antigen coding DNA sequence into the cell of an organism as a mechanism to induce an immune response. Whereas RNA vaccines, they deliver a snipped of mRNA inside tiny oily capsules and lipid nanoparticles especially. So DNA and RNA vaccines, which are genetic vaccines, when we compare them versus traditional vaccines, so we can see that traditional vaccines, only a small fragment, attenuated, non-pathogenic virus is being injected inside our body in order to evoke the immune response. Whereas in case of genetic vaccines, we are using the gene which will encode for the fragment of the antigen, and which will be capable enough to evoke the immune response, and will be capable enough to to form memory antibodies and primary antibodies. Next, we have, why do we need biotechnology in food production? So we have seen that biotechnology has done, a lot of work in case of food, like genetically modified food. And you must have heard about BT brinjal or golden rice. Golden rice is a boon for developing nations because it carries a gene which can code for vitamin A. So vitamin A deficiency was a problem with developing nation earlier. Golden rice can be a boon for them. So why do we need biotechnology in food production? There are various reasons for that. People are dairy allergic, we can help those which are allergic to dairy by modifying it. Second largest childhood allergy in US. And water usage, we can reduce the water usage. Around 1 liter milk requires approximately 1 kiloliter water. Food shortage problem can be cured with that, because a cow consumes around 75 to 300 times of dry matter to produce just 1x of protein. And climate change. So world's livestock account for 18% of greenhouse gases. So biotechnology can be a solution for that. Land storage, around 1/3 of the planet's land, which is, which we can use for agriculture, it is occupied by livestock feed crop cultivation. So with the help of biotechnology, we'll have no foodborne illness, no contaminants, no antibiotic traces. It can be cruelty free because we no more separation of mother and baby cows, can be sustainable. So it reduces greenhouse gases emission and water wastage. It's a healthier option because hormone and antibiotic free products without allergies can be produced. It is efficient as a scalable process to feed a growing world population. Next use we have in waste management. So biotechnology can be helpful in converting waste to useful. So, around a lot of food is wasted in years, and each year around 1.6 billion tons of food, which is worth trillions of money, it goes to waste, and which is around 1/3 of the total amount of food which is produced globally. So what if we can use this, we can recycle this food which is wasted, and we can form biogas, and also from manure, crop residues, wastewater, and from food waste, biogas can be produced. And then further, this biogas can be used for production of heat, power, and many other such options, for many other human causes. So similar to this, we have bioplastic. It's a large opportunity, although the plastic, the bioplastic is not 100% biodegradable, but it is still better than the plastic. And bioplastics are plastic material produced from renewable biomass sources, vegetable oils, fat, or cornstarch, recycled food waste. They can be used for construction of bioplastic. Most of them are biodegradable, so at least we can go for a safer and greener option rather than plastic, which is non-biodegradable and cause a lot of pollution, and it causes a lot of disturbance to marine life also. So bioplastic can be another opportunity, and it's actually a booming field also. Next comes industrial biotechnology. So, this is actually what the application of biotechnology is. So they harness the cellular and biomolecular characteristics of biology, and they use it for industrial purpose, so that our lives can be made, planet can be made safer, and our lives can be made easier. So this industrial biotechnology, it's also called wide biotechnology, and deals with the uses of enzyme or microorganisms in various industries. So production of biochemical food ingredients like probiotics, nutraceuticals, energy, paper, consumer goods, and biofuels. Probiotics you have seen, and you must be aware about it also. They are one of the industrial biotechnology product. So in this, glucose is converted to ethanol. This is fermentation reaction, and an alcohol-based biofuel that can be used to power trucks, cars and airplanes can be created. So this way we can save our non-renewable fossil fuels. We can save them. Instead of petroleum and all, we can use biofuels. And most ethanol fuel is produced from corn, sugarcane, and sweet potatoes. It can also be made from wheat, barley, oats, and rice. So this way we can solve the problem of so that our fossil fuels are not depleted, and along with that we can also take care of the environment, and the food wastage can also be taken care of if this is an option, if in future it is applicable.